55. Woo! Welcome, everyone, to the SnapCast podcast with your hosts, Brad O'Brien and Mike Cooley.
Hey, brother.
Episode 55. You might have heard me just confirming that. I'm just like, I lose count.
Check my notes.
Whose idea was it to count these episodes? Episode 55. Welcome, everybody. This is if you're just joining us for the first time on this cast, this is a Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about Magic and Magic-related things. We're geared towards a casual Magic player with a very competitive interest in MTG finance. And I will say, you people that follow us a lot might have noticed a slight change there. We had some, thanks to you guys, we had some very good feedback this week. And I really like where that's going. Like, when you think about top-tier Magic players, you won't think about
Brad O'Brien and Mike Cooley.
You won't think about that, right? We're pretty competitive in our own world. Like, I kick Brad's ass all the time, and he gets so salty. Just kidding.
True. No, it's true.
But
that's not special. I get salty with everybody.
But in all seriousness, we have some merits to our names. We've won some tournaments. We've won some accolades, if you will. But a lot of our suggestions and the cards that we talk about are based on value. You know what I mean? We can recognize value in cards. We can recognize why they're good and why they may be more valuable monetarily over time. But can we tell you why somebody brings in a certain card from their sideboard to counteract somebody else's sideboard card that they're bringing in? We really don't talk about that. And when you think about competitive Magic players,
that's what you're thinking about.
It's probably what you're looking for. So I just want to thank Brady for that. You know who you are.
Name drop.
Thank you so much for that honest feedback and something that we've considered for a while too. It's completely correct. We talk about value of cards and why cards are good.
Yep.
Certain cards have spiked this week that we want to talk about that maybe nobody else has been talking about. We were talking about these cards for a long time. And we were just like, there's so much value. And I'm pretty sure I've sung this song for a very long time.
What card are you talking about?
We might as well just get it out of the way, dude. Friggin' Karn the Great Creator. What do you guys think he's worth? Just if you haven't looked him up in a bit, what do you think this guy's worth? Right?
Just the regular pack rare.
Do you remember when we were talking about this guy at like $4? Like, get this guy at $4. You know what I mean? He's you can get him on the cheap end these days. Like if he's heavily played or beat up, around like $8. But this guy just keeps spiking. I've seen prices out there anywhere from $10 to $15. Brad's bringing up some. He's found some versions for $8 here, but
here we go.
Yeah,
pre-release copies, $15.
Yeah, the pre-release copies, which were all pretty much the same price at one point, which we always suggest. Like, pick up the premium versions. Pick up this, $15, dude. $15. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a good card, and that's it. We've always known right from the beginning that Karn being effectively a null rod on the battlefield that is also a tutor on the battlefield is worth more than $3 or $4 or $5 or $6.
Yeah,
it is just in one of the most open sets of all time,
dude. We actually played a game of Commander a couple weeks back, tabletop Commander, and I slammed a Karn the Great Creator and felt so good about it. You want to know the worst feeling in the world is when Brad took it from me with some other card that gave him control of it. I was like, oh, this card is
control magic, maybe?
Ban this card. This card is so bad.
It does. One of the things that I like about running control magic is, or any of those other effects, when you steal something from somebody else, is they get a taste of their own medicine. And you realize how oppressive it is to play under a card like that.
Yeah, I was running it in Treachery too, which has a lot of artifacts in it. And yeah, insane.
Dude, you know what else we've talked about for a while that our frequent viewer Tech 4 clued me in on?
Oh, man.
Lion's Eye Diamond has gone up stupidly.
Stupid. We suggested this when it was at $200. And this was we always have these segments when we talk about Snap This Up. And sometimes we'll preface it with, this is not for the weak of heart. You know what I mean? Like, not for the weak of heart, but trust us. Like, we wouldn't suggest this if we weren't sure. If you took our advice and bought Lion's Eye Diamonds at $200, right? $200, which I was telling Brad this before the cast started. I bought mine at $60 back in the day. I got a playset of them for $60, and that was expensive at the time.
Weird flex, but okay.
No, but I'm just putting in perspective. You know what I mean? That was expensive at the time. I was like, I've seen some copies for 50, some for 55. This card is like a wannabe Black Lotus. I don't know. It's only good in one deck. Why is it $60? Then it was $200. And at that point, I was singing the Swan Song, man. I was like, trust me, this is a good price. Like, it's on the reserve list.
I was just going to say,
it's not
tell
getting
me
reprinted.
about cards on the reserve list.
Guess what this card is at now? Just take a wild guess. What do you think?
Well, if we picked it at 200 and we're talking about it now as a holy crap, has it jumped? I don't even start getting super excited until I start to see 100% flip. We beat that.
Yeah, this is like 150% gain, just about.
Yeah, especially if you got a near mint copy for $200.
Yep,
easily, because lightly played copies now are listed on TCG Player for just shy of $500.
Insane. It's crazy to think about, man. Like, this card will never be printed again. It's very unique in what it does. The more mechanics that come out that care about hand size and what you have in your hand, such as the Hellbent mechanic that completely broke this card, there will be more. There will be more mechanics that break this. It's an eternal card. You know what I mean? Now it's at $500 just about. This is insane, man. There's a lot of spiking going on this week.
There sure is. I mean, a big part of that is people are getting their economic stimulus checks, their $600 checks.
That's a great point.
From the government, and most of the people. So Magic is not a poor person's hobby by and large.
Right.
And I don't say that to put anybody down. I'm not trying to degrade anybody, but this is a hobby for people with what do you call that when you have your household budget and then there's that bit at the bottom where
micro and macroeconomics.
No. I'm saying you have disposable income.
Yeah.
And you have money that you can put into hobbies. You know, you're not devoting all of your paycheck to surviving.
Right.
People that spend money on Magic cards either are doing it at the risk of their better credit and, wisdom and making poor decisions. And for those that are listening, I might have raised my hand. But for the most part, people playing Magic have disposable income.
Yeah.
So then when you get something like this sort of stimulus payment, which we also saw this when the last ones came out, there was a huge upsurge in people buying cards that they couldn't normally afford.
Right.
Because they all of a sudden they have the money in the bank to buy that reserve list card or that dual land that they couldn't afford before.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And these are the things, the sort of, I sort of erroneously alluded to micro and macroeconomics there, but like there are certain factors in the real world that you can pay attention to that can make you money in the Magic world.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, for example, these stimulus checks coming out, right? Like Brad just hit the nail on the head. People that couldn't afford dual lands before, right? They couldn't afford the underground seas that they needed for their deck because they were $500.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I just got $600 that I didn't plan on.
Right, because
guess what?
It's very hard to budget to save up for, say your Magic spending money is $100 a month. For a lot of people, having $100 of discretionary spending is a pretty good budget.
Yeah.
And thinking, well, it would take me 5 months to buy an underground sea. It's probably not going to happen. I'm probably going to buy a box of whatever the new set is and $100 in singles.
Right. And maybe crack something that I can trade for an underground sea, right? Like that seems like the play.
Yeah.
But and this is something that I have a few ideas that I want to talk to our audience about as well surrounding this, and that is just these macro events that happen.
Yep,
that
outside of our game.
Yeah, and we talk about them all. We talk about some of these all the time. That they're just very good leading indicators that like this card will actually spike You know what I mean? It's almost like it's a no-brainer. Like, it happens and you know. It's a very big leading indicator. The fact that certain types of Magic cards will spike, or Magic cards in general even. You know what I mean? So yeah, stimulus package, when people have more money, more disposable income, that's always a big thing. And I think that's why we're seeing cards such as Lion's Eye Diamond and some dual lands spiking right now. You know what I mean? Will they go down? Yeah, probably. But they're spiking right now because everybody has more disposable income. You want to know another thing that we've talked about on the cast before that is a leading indicator of card prices, right? Or, what's going to happen to a card, but what will eventually happen to it? We've talked about bannings before, right? Mm-hmm. We've talked about bannings. You want to know? I didn't spend too much disposable income this week on Magic, but I did spend some. And you know what card I bought?
What?
Omnath, the band.
4-mana Omnath?
4-mana Omnath, the band. This guy's $7 right now. If you shop around on eBay, you can get him for like $5 or $6. And I'm talking like the premium versions of him, like full art or whatnot. You get him for $5 or $6. This guy, shit you not, right? We're skipping right to snap this up, right? Like right away, right? This is my snap this up of this week. Omnath, the band. Right? Omnath, Locus of Creation. If you're not familiar with this guy, he's a 4-mana 4/4 that just has a ton of nice landfall triggers, right? Like, it comes, if landfall, if a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life if it's the first time this ability is resolved. The next time, you add 4 mana to your mana pool.
So, play him, crack a fetch, he's free. Right. Everybody knows what Omnath is.
Yeah, exactly. You guys know what this guy does. This guy is $7 on the high end right now. Like, you can get him for between $5 and $6 if you shop around on eBay, shop around on TCG Player. You can get some pretty good versions of this guy for $5 or $6. And, there is a lot of value in this card, and let me prove it if you weren't convinced. Have you seen the Modern results this week and what decks are taking that format down?
Oh, hey, look. MTGO top 8. Man. The most recent Modern league, just league.
Yep, just click on Modern real quick. And look at like the some big events. Like, look at the preliminary there. Like, that was a little bit bigger event. We got
4-color ramp. That's
4-color ramp. Omnath in the deck. Modern staple, becoming a modern staple in 4-color ramp. There's other decks that use it. There was another deck that I saw. What was it? That it's just taking it down. Uro, a card that we've kind of, we've talked about. We've always said this card is actually just not affordable at, the $50, $60 for most people, but it's kind of a good buy because look at this. It's just eternally great. 4-color ramp all over the place in Modern. And one of the big staples in that deck is Omnath, man. This
version's running 3, this version's running 2.
Absolutely. Like, so, yeah, that was my pick of the week. I put my money where my mouth is with this card. I just went and bought some, like the special art, different versions, all of this stuff. Really great. It's probably won't get cheaper. And speaking of these macro events and why they have the effect on the cards that they do, we talked about this banning before, right? What happens with a banning is usually Wizards doesn't reprint that card anytime soon, right? Like, it's not reprinted in a standard legal set. They don't do a game night set that is has Omnath in it. They're not going to do that. They're probably not going to bring it back in any standard-based stuff that they're going to promote for standard, which is one of their biggest formats. They're not reprinting it anytime soon. Yep. So the price of it grows. The value of it's there. Obviously, the value of it's there. The card got banned. If you don't really need any other convincing that there's a ton of value in the card. Like, it got banned. There's a lot of value in it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a card that's too powerful for some formats that's seeing play in eternal formats. And so one of the things that will happen is it will be at a reasonable price for a while, and then it will start to go up because demand can either spike or it can grow slowly over time, and supply will spike at printing and fade off slowly over time.
Right.
then so talking about sort of microeconomics, what happens is, say somebody top 8s a tournament with this again and again, and everybody switches to this deck. And this is mostly if we go back to paper events.
Right.
Then what happens is the card will double overnight. Everybody will pitch their copies to vendors.
Yeah.
And then it will drop again.
Well, think about the deck that I was on for a while before Mox Opal got banned, Hardened Scales. I saw that deck show up in a couple of decks, like in a couple of tournaments here and there. And I was like, this deck is nuts. You know what I mean? This deck is insane. And, so I immediately picked up Hardened Scales, something that wasn't in my traditional affinity deck. You know what I mean? There's cards out there that, this, like, for example, Omnath, that's showing up in multiple types of decks almost immediately now in Modern. And the price of it is still at the lowest it's ever been. Hardened Scales was like $1 at one point. When I got them, they were at about $1. And when they started getting popular in Hardened Scales, they went up to $6 for just a, rare. Just a rare. Wasn't a mythic, just a rare. Pretty insane. So I think we're going to see something similar with Omnath in price anyway. I'm not saying it's going to 6x. I'm not saying it's going to, but all I'm saying is it's going to go up in value. Like it's almost guaranteed. Like, much like the stimulus makes these expensive reserved cards go up in price, a banning will make these insanely valuable cards eventually go up in price.
Well, it means that they're going to be attainable right now.
Yes.
But seeing them play in eternal formats means their value is going to go up over time.
Absolutely. I think that's a good comparison there, too. I think that's a very good side note for that.
So one of the things that we just looked at, an MTGO Modern prelim that had two copies of 4-color ramp control, both running Omnath, right? So that's the MTG Modern prelim. And then we have the Modern Challenge that also has 2 copies of ramp control. Mm-hmm. Did you notice there's some other decks that we see in both of these?
Oh, hell yeah, man. Oh, hell yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I got a card from that deck, too, that I want to talk about. I assume you're talking about Heliod.
I'm always talking about Heliod.
You're always talking about Heliod. Yeah, so, okay. This deck is cool. We've talked about Heliod before. Obviously, You guys know why Heliod's cool. There's another card that I want to talk about, speaking of Hardened Scales, right? That I think you had mentioned this card either to me or on the cast before, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Now I'm very sure how I feel about it. And this card is on insane. A stick. This is for the people who are listening to the audio of this podcast right now, we are looking at Conclave Mentor. This card is valuable.
Yes.
It is valuable. This is, when you think about this, when you break this card down, and this is something I don't think we did before, you had mentioned it, and you know me, sometimes Brad mentions cards, and I'm like, nah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. This was a good pick, man. You mentioned it before. Let's break this card down. It's a 2/2 for 2 mana. Passes the vanilla test, right? 2/2 for 2. A green and a white. It's a Hardened Scales. Literally, it's one of its abilities, because this is Magic in 2021. One of its abilities is another very big staple card that used to be in Modern quite a bit. Hardened Scales. It does the exact same thing that Hardened Scales does right on its body, right? And then it says, when he dies, you gain life equal to its power. So you're gaining 2 life if this guy dies no matter what, which is more than can be said for Hardened Scales. When that got killed, it was like devastating.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If a burn deck brought in their destructive revelries or something, yeah, it was pretty devastating. You know what I mean? But this will get you some value when it dies. But yeah, it has that Hardened Scales ability, and the cool thing about it in certain Modern decks that we're seeing right now is, guess what card can bring this in?
Collected Company.
Collected Company can bring this in and boost up the Spike Feeder that's coming into play. So now it's 3 counters on it, or what have you, whatever else you need for this combo. Like, there's so many counters that are involved in these Heliod decks.
I like that you are finally excited about Conclave Mentor.
Oh man, I'm so pumped about it. Like, that's really
that's
good.
what he does. He pumps. +1.
I'm pumped about the pumper. That's for sure.
I am pumped to see Heliod, even though, people gripe about infinite combos, I am happy to see that deck seeing more play. We got a comment here from Lucky Gaming TCG. The new red counter spell with Cascade can bring out Emrakul. Not technically Cascade, but I think what maybe he's getting at is, should we be talking about Kaldheim spoilers?
Let's get there, man. Let's get there. We've talked about, so far in the cast, some macro events and what they might mean for card prices. Pay attention to these things. Stimulus packages. Biden might be giving out more. Think about that, American viewers. Think about those cards on the reserve list that you've always wanted, and just know they're going to get more expensive.
They're going to get more expensive when people have more
free
more capital.
Exactly. So think about that. Also, think about these bannings. Definitely pick up Omnath, the band is what I call him. Pick him up right now. He's $5 or $6 for special versions of him. He's not getting any cheaper. It's really good. Snap that guy up. With that being said, let's move on to some of these nasty spoilers.
Almost all of this set has been printed now.
Click on newest spoilers, the ones that have popped up.
The problem with that is so much of this stuff is the jank that they're just dumping off at the end.
That's fine, dude. We can pick it up. Like, so for example, Tundra Fumarole.
You want to talk about Tundra Fumarole?
I like this card, man.
Fumarole?
The Fumarole. You guys like this card? What do you guys think of this? This is, I feel like this has a lot of value. We're seeing a lot of Scred type abilities in this set. And, this is nuts. 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and add a colorless to your mana pool for each snow that was spent in this card's mana cost. So it's in that, and that mana doesn't drop from your mana pool. So you can kill a blocker first, swing through, and that mana is still there on your next main phase. Pretty insane.
So this is something actually that I'm not super familiar with from other cards that do that. That means it stays permanently, right? Because I know there are some commander decks that are built around that mechanic of mana not leaving when steps and phases end. So you can even hold that over into your next turn?
Well, no, because it says until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Yeah, at the end of your turn, you will lose it. But you can play it in your first main phase to get rid of a blocker, swing through, and still have mana in your second main phase, which is really efficient. And I think this is kind of getting at what Lucky Gaming TCG is talking about, the efficiency of these cards.
Oh, no, he's talking about the broken counter spell.
It's broken.
You put a counter spell in red. Let's just get to it.
Now let's just jump right to it.
Let's see. Tybalt's Trickery is what Lucky Gaming TCG is talking about.
Juck effery right here.
And your favorite Magic YouTuber, you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know if I'd call him my favorite, but
Magic AIDS.
Oh, wait, I love that guy. Yeah, actually, I do love that guy.
Yeah, so you didn't even know who I was talking about.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about, I won't even say it.
He's done some broken stuff with this card.
Wow. So we're talking about Tybalt's Trickery, or we should say Lucky Gaming TCG is talking about Tybalt's Trickery. Yeah. Let's read this for the people that don't know. It's a red counter spell. 2 mana. 1 red, 1 colorless. Counter target spell. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller remills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell.
I understand now, because reading his comment, Lucky Gaming, he said the new red counter spell with Cascade can bring out Emrakul. So what Magic AIDS has done is put together a deck that uses the Cascade mechanic to always cascade into this.
Interesting.
And so this counters, because the cascading card is on the stack, it always has a target.
Wow.
So then it goes through the process again. So the worst thing that can happen is you hit another cascade card,
right,
or you hit Emrakul.
Wow.
And the clause on this says you cast that card without paying its mana cost.
Oh my god.
So you get cast triggers.
Oh my god. So what you're saying is you run these 3-drop cascade spells that they will hit Tybalt's Trickery. Tybalt's Trickery will either cast another 3-drop
cascade spell
or Emrakul, and you just plow through your deck until you cast Emrakul. God, that's so broken.
Yeah.
This is going to be legal in Historic. This is going to be legal in Pioneer. This is nuts. says cast, so extra turn. Yeah, you get the extra turn off of like Emrakul the Eon's Torn.
Yeah.
Or what about new Emrakul? You get
The
to
Promised
take
Land
control of their
your-
next turn.
Yep.
God damn, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like we did talk about white getting better cards. The white version that they put in this set is so bad compared to this that it's disgusting.
This is good, man.
This
I think
is really good.
this is a great point. And Lucky Gaming TCG says everybody loves Magic Aids. This guy, he's hilarious. If you guys haven't heard about him, this guy is hilarious. And he's also very creative, which I think is kind of why we have an appreciation for him. Being the casual Magic players that we are with competitive interest in finance, I can't tell you how many times I've watched this guy build decks and have invested in cards that he puts in those decks because of the way he breaks them and shows off the value
the fundamental power of a card if you go full in on it.
Oh, absolutely. And I would not be surprised if we see Tybalt's Trickery being abused in so many other ways too. You know what I mean? It's just such a value card. I mean, you know, being able to counter your own spells and cast broken cards off in, you know, through your library. It's just so good.
Yeah, so just thinking about exploiting the Cascade mechanic from prior Magic sets and Eternal formats and saying, what can we cascade into? We're going to cascade into this. That's going to counter that. That's going to get something else off the top of our deck. That can't be that cascade card. So worst case scenario, it's another Tybalt's Trickery, but there's still spells on the stack. It's So it was well thought out. But there's another card that I think he will probably have a deck coming up to exploit really soon. Mystical Reflection. I'm super excited about this one.
This one's cool, man. I feel like I like it. I can appreciate the value of it. I'm curious to hear your opinion. And I know you will be just so jaded to hear mine.
Whatever. So, this requires a blue pip. In EDH, this says remove another player's commander from the game. Mystical Reflection is a 1 in blue instant. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time that at least one creature or a planeswalker enters the battlefield this turn, they enter as a copy of the chosen creature. So in a game of Commander, as long as there's something on the battlefield and somebody else goes to play their broken commander, this is better than Counterspell. It doesn't go back to the command zone. It doesn't go back to their hand. Their commander enters the battlefield as a copy of somebody else's Arbor Elf.
Oh my god.
So until it dies,
I was wondering
they
what
don't
you
get
meant.
anything.
I was wondering what you meant when you said removes their commander from the game. I'm like, wait, what? Like, wow. My brain instantly went to how to break this. But you are thinking more on the reasonable side of how to cast this spell for what it's worth. And that's amazing. That's actually kind of cool.
So this is a Foretell card, and the Foretell is just a blue pip.
So remind me how Foretell works.
Foretell means that on one turn, you can put this in exile face down for two generic mana.
Mm-hmm.
Then on any later turn, you can cast it for its Foretell cost, which is just blue.
Oh my god.
Now this can be broken. This can be broken if you're going to have multiple tokens enter the turn on a given turn. Right. It can absolutely be broken.
Oh, absolutely. Like, doubling season or whatnot can really, I could see some very creative commander players making some busted decks that involve this card.
This also hits planeswalkers.
Oh, God.
So when somebody casts their Karn the Great Creator and you're the blue artifact, Emery deck.
Wow.
You can be like, no, actually, that's a Thopter token.
Oh, my God.
And if you have Saheeli Rai out, casting this makes, you have to have the target.
Wow.
But
that's so cool, though. Like, because if you think about it, think about the eternal playability of this card.
Yes.
Like, think about the eternal playability. You can, much like what you're talking about, use this as sort of a nice little counterspell into whatever's going on, right? Think about this in Legacy. And this is where my competitive crazy creativity sides coming out.
Hit me.
Someone cast Show and Tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bring it on.
Someone cast Show and Tell. In response, you say, by the way, you see this Delver of Secrets that I have on the board here that's flipped into a 3/2? The next creature that comes into play, or Planeswalker, whatever you want to dump in, comes in as a copy of this guy. And he's going to come in as a copy of the human, I believe. I believe he comes in as even if he doesn't, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I think he'll come in as whatever faces up.
Right.
But he can never transform.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Either way. Like, that just seems really good. That seems really good. It's a really good counter to just some weird stuff. Like weird stuff with people trying to cheat stuff into play.
How about this? Somebody on a previous turn casted... Because this is not creature you control. This is any creature. So somebody casts Massacre Worm and they wipe the board.
Oof.
And on your turn, you have 5 or 6 blue mana, and you put down an enchantment and something else, and you play Master Waves, and Master Waves hits and triggers, and you cast this and target their Massacre Worm.
Oh my god.
And you get 4 Massacre Worms.
Oh my god.
Because all of your Master Waves tokens will enter as copies of the non-legendary creature you target.
That's very, very interesting. That's very, very interesting. I now kind of am changing my opinion on this. I was thinking about, like I said, my brain instantly went to how this card can be broken, which is more along the lines of what you're just talking about.
Yep.
Is getting more, a ton of tokens to enter the battlefield as copies of something pretty GG.
Yeah.
But I think played on a more fair sense here, this card is just insane.
It's just insane as a counterspell.
Just insane as it is. Like straight value. I think it's pretty insane.
Hi, for X white blue, I would like to make X copies of whatever the best non-legendary creature is on the board.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit more involved with that. The reason why I hated that at first is because I said it's one card that relies on 2 other cards to make something that doesn't win the game as soon as it lands. You know what I mean?
Oh, here's the thing. As creative as I want to be, I bet there's a way to win the game with this.
I'm sure there is, but
it depends on other things being in play.
Right.
And that's why my first place for this card, 100% EDH. And the thing is, when you foretell it, and Lucky Gaming says foretell mechanic is the future, there is a foretell counterspell. So when you put down a foretell card that's exiled face down, people do not know if you're holding up a counterspell or mystical reflection or something else that might be in blue.
God, that's so cool. And it's exiled too, right? They can't mess with it in your hand after that.
Correct.
It's just oof.
They could process it, I guess, if they're playing weak-ass Eldrazi.
Weak Eldrazi. But I like that, man. I think that card, now that we talk about it, now that we kind of, discuss the practical uses of it, I really like that.
I'm glad I won you over.
It's really cool. Think about the same Rug Delver deck that I'm thinking about in my head running something like this in the sideboard, right? You have this card and someone gets off a turn 2 Show and Tell. They dump in an Emrakul.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or they dump in a what's his face? Grizzlebrand. You dump in a Delver, you know what I mean? Or maybe you don't, and you're just like on your turn, you go to your turn 3 and you're just like, all right, so cast this card, I'm gonna choose Grizzlebrand, and then cast my Delver.
Grizzlebrand is legendary, right?
Yeah. Oh, does it say non-legendary?
It says non-legendary. So that's the hitch.
Fair point.
So you can't copy another legendary.
Opinion completely changed on it now. Opinion completely changed on it.
We have 180'd, and then we have 180'd again, and we have gone 360 back to it sucks.
No, it's actually not bad. But it's not bad. But I guess it can't be used in that defensive, I'm going to take your board too sense that I'm thinking about. Because usually when people abuse shit, and cheat a big creature into play, it's usually a legendary one. So
well, and that caused some very interesting conversations on what non-legendary creatures are very popular in Commander. And one of the ones that came up that has been a recent problem is Agent of Treachery. So imagine you have an Agent of Treachery in your mono blue EDH deck, and then you cast Master of Waves.
Oh my God.
And you make X.
All these cards in the same color too.
Agent of Treacheries. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to find, there is a, they've printed some equipment in here. Sorry, not even equipment. I'm thinking of vehicles.
Ah.
And I feel like looking at it this way is screwing me up because I'm scrolling way back and not finding it.
So,
what's another card you want to talk about?
I want to talk about that one. Hold on.
Of course.
Hold on. Bring this up.
Yep. In Search of Greatness.
In Search of Greatness. Have you guys heard about this card? I just got messages from a buddy of mine before we came over here and started up the cast, and I'm pretty fired up about it, dude.
He came in. We did have a 20-minute conversation about this before we even started the cast.
Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. Mm-hmm. No matter what we say, this is a Commander staple. No matter what I say, people are using this in Commander. This is so good. So this card is called the interpretation of it, because only a foreign language card has been spoiled with this. But the interpretation is In Search of Greatness, or maybe Search of Greatness is what this card is called. But it's an enchantment for 2 green mana, and this is what this thing does.
It says right at the bat, GG.
GG.
GG, yo.
It says GG right at the top. They knew what they were doing.
Like they did the OG Old Growth Troll last week. Now they got the GG here.
Now they got the GG. So 2 green mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand.
I like that it breaks the timing restriction.
With a mana cost equal to 1+, the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control, without paying that spell's mana cost. If you don't, if you just can't do it by chance,
scry 1.
Scry 1.
That's pretty good. Like, people have played cards that are just scry on your upkeep. Right. No doubt.
And they've paid more mana for them. Like Thassa of the Great Oracle or whatever. Not
Thassa's Biden.
Yes.
The equipment from going back a few sets that scried every upkeep.
Thassa herself. Thassa, God of the Sea. That's what it was. She was playable, and she's a $20 card. And that's basically all of what people use her for, is that scry during the upkeep. You can make, it has another ability, but it's rare that she becomes a creature. But when she does, that's cool too.
So one of the words that is very important on here certainly is other permanent.
Yep. I missed that the first time when I read over this card, but still I don't really think it matters that much. I think it's actually better that it says that.
I think a lot of people on their first reading thought, I'm going to play this on 2, and then on turn 3, I can play 2 3-drops. Not how this works.
Not necessarily how it works.
The thing that I just caught on this reading is that it breaks timing restrictions. So you're going to cast that permanent spell, and it is cast. It's not put into play at the beginning of your upkeep.
Right.
So it's not in your first main phase.
Right.
So if you have a card that's a permanent with a main phase trigger, like at the beginning of your first main phase, add 2 green mana to your mana pool.
Or how about a Sylvan Library? How about that? You go turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 this. On your turn 3, you smash in a Sylvan Library.
So that extra draw step.
Your extra draw step takes account right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right then and there, you're going to get your draw step. I mean, this is just one of the things that pop into our heads with, the crazy creativity and value of these cards. There's probably tons of other stuff that can be used and abused.
That's awesome. So if you play a 1-drop and then this on 2, on your next upkeep, you could how much is Howling Mine? Howling Mine is 2, right? Right? 2. So you could flash in Howling Mine on the beginning of your upkeep on turn 3.
Oh my
and
God,
draw 2 cards.
So good. And you're the first benefactor of Howling Mine, which is consistently a drawback of that card.
Right, you play it on turn 2, everybody else gets the benefit.
Everybody else gets the benefits of it. And then the next turn, you can do that for free with the enchantment that does the same thing. Off from Howling Mine, because you have a 2-drop now.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool, man. I think this card has a lot of value. Whenever you have a card for a very low mana cost, I say 2 or less, that allows you to cheat cards into play, it's probably pretty broken, right? Like, I mean, just thinking about it, I can't even fathom the things, asking us to fathom all of the things that this card could do off the top of our head is just unreasonable. But I can tell you, in Magic history, whenever you have a card for even 3 or less mana that cheats other cards into play, it's consistently been a very valuable, highly sought after card. And I don't think this is any exception, man. Search of Greatness. In Search of Greatness.
Now it's my turn to shit on Mike streams.
All right.
I think that they titled this cleverly. I think that you are going to search for greatness for a long time and maybe never get there.
Maybe.
Because I'm not saying it's a trap, and it's certainly a powerful card. But, you know, if you say you play this in an aggro deck and you put in that 2-drop or you put in that 3-drop, you're never getting a free spell. You're only getting scries because you need a 3-drop. And then if you play the 3-drop, you need to have a 4-drop to get that free spell. And then you need to have a 5-drop.
True.
And then say you draw. So if you build your deck in a way that you think, okay, I've got a bunch of 1-drops, so I can always have a 1, so that way I can get the 2. And then you have a bunch of 2-drops, so you've got some 3s.
So
But if you play all 1s and 2s and you draw that 5-drop, and you're running a low land count because you're counting on this to cheat things in, you're never getting there.
So, as a counter to this argument, right? Here's what I say. Think about the value, not only of this card on your side, but on the information you glean from it on your opponent's side, right? So you can force your opponent to mess up with this card.
Your favorite thing in Magic.
Favorite thing in Magic. You can force your opponent to make the wrong call, right? Such as getting rid of your permanents, your non-land permanents. Oh, I'm not going to focus on that card. I'm going to blow up your 1-drop that you put out on turn 1. Great. I'm still going to get a scry, and you're still going to be worrying about this turns later. Now, granted, higher level players might not do that. If they have something that can wipe out a permanent, they're probably aiming at this. But here's the cool thing, and this is what I love, right? It lets you know what your opponent has in their hand. Do you have a card that can deal with an enchantment or any problematic permanent on turn 2? If you did, you probably would have gotten rid of this card because it is problematic in every sense of the word. It's giving me card advantage, right? It's giving me card advantage by scrying every upkeep if I can't do anything. And it's allowing me to cheat cards into play. You know, so if you could get rid of a permanent on turn 2, a problematic permanent, you would have gotten rid of this. So that also sets up your plays off of this card. You know what I mean? You can say, okay, I put a 1-drop into play. It's much like, it reminds me of Steel Overseer in that sense, back in traditional Affinity when that was insane, right? The reason that card in my head was really, really good, and, you know, some people took it out of their deck or they went down to 3 of them in Affinity, and I was like, this is a sin. Because this card is so good. Because when you play it,
it tells you what your opponent can do.
It tells you what your opponent has in their hand. If they did not get rid of it, they do not have removal. Because if they did, they would have gotten rid of this card. So now I can glean that information and say, you don't have removal. You wouldn't have said go if you had removal. And now I'm free to tee off. You know what I mean? So I slam this on turn 2. Maybe I'm going against a control deck. Maybe I'm going against, okay. Like, you can't get rid of a permanent card like this. So, and you also didn't counter it.
I definitely like this against control.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the scry every turn is super awesome. If they don't deal with it, you can cast something for free. They have to counter it or not, and then you can play something else with the mana on your turn.
Right.
100%.
100% cool. and like I said, it just
And we
allows
ain't
you.
a competitive Magic podcast.
Oh yeah, right. But by the very least, even if if they don't get rid of it and they try to game it and they're just like, well, you don't have anything on the board right now on turn 2. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to try to next level your next level stuff.
Yep.
I'm still getting a scry out of it. I might even be able to see that you're doing that to me.
Yeah.
And see that I don't have any permanents. So you're going to see what comes out there. And I've already made you mess up. I've already made you mess up with this card.
So I cheated. I scrolled down and looked at the comments, and I didn't see something there that I'm going to share with people, but I'm going to share with you an idea that I got. Some of the 2-drops in say red, green, and standard are not phenomenal. Also, green is a pretty tough cost on 2. But just thinking, if you play this on 2, on 3, you play Lovestruck Beast. On your next turn, you can flash in Questing Beast in your upkeep.
Yeah. So hold on.
And then play something else.
What? Okay, hold on. Let's really break down the wording of this card, right?
Yep.
It says, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with mana cost equal to 1+ the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control. Whoa.
Wait, does that mean you can put a 1-drop in?
You can put a 1-drop in even if you don't. Oh my God.
Let's wait and see what the official translation of this card is.
Yeah, because some of these words are pretty messed up. Like, the translation of here looks pretty loose. Because you see, this clearly should have said other permanents you control. Whoever translated this is pretty loose translation.
Yeah.
But if it says other permanents you control,
you can get a 1-drop for free on.
Yeah, this is a must get rid of card. This is
certainly
a
makes
must destroy card.
The thing that I did see in here that I will share, somebody said, if you're playing a creatures deck with this and you put out the Great Henge, that's a 9-drop permanent. The turn after you can put in you can cast Free Eldrazi.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. God damn, that's so good.
So I like that some of the most busted cards in this set so far are rares.
Yeah, very obtainable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the rarity that they've been printing these days, Mythic is where it's at. You know what I mean? If something's printed at Mythic, you can expect it to be pretty expensive. At Rare, you might
expect attainable.
Yeah, it's obtainable. It might come out at a very cheap price, between $5 and $10. You never know.
All right, I'm ready to get off this card, Mike. You play Golos.
Oh, I love that deck. It's broken. Broken. The best card suggestion Brad has ever had on this cast that I immediately was skeptical about, but was completely wrong. I will show some humility here and say I was completely wrong.
We talked
Golos
about
is a
humility
broken
earlier.
card, especially in Commander. But yes, go ahead.
Okay.
I have a Golos deck, as a matter of fact.
So Golos also sees play in some 60-card formats, doesn't it?
No way, does it? Oh, wait, yes, it does.
Yeah.
In eternal 60-card formats, such as Legacy, such as Vintage. Golos actually sees play in Legacy and Vintage. I shit you not. We're not lying to you. You are not hearing things. Golos.
I wonder if we can even find it, but can we...
Look at like Mud decks or artifact-based decks. Golos is where it's at, dude. They are definitely running that.
Not going to show up there. Of course, I'm going to have a... Let's see.
Either way. So
search. So one of the things that I want to ask you is, what is the land that in 60-card Golos decks that they always search up?
That they always search up? Field of the Dead, for sure. I would imagine.
Field of the Dead is a good one.
That's a really good one. It's very common.
If you want to activate Golos, what do you go and get?
You probably are going to go get City of Traders or Ancient Tomb, or maybe even any land that it produces a lot of colors. I know there's a lot of options, actually. It's a loaded question, Brad.
So let's just take a look here. 12 post mud, green ramp. The card that I'm trying to get you to talk about, God damn it, is Cascading Cataracts. Are
Really?
you even familiar with that card?
Is it the one that adds a color in your commander's idea?
No.
No, okay. It is... Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is a good card. This probably should be in my Golos deck. Cascading Cataracts. Indestructible land. It's a rare. Tap to add a colorless or pay 5 colorless and tap. Add 5 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. Hate it.
So what does it cost? What does it cost to activate Golos's ability?
7.
And 7 and what?
So, well, you have 5 of each color and 2 colorless.
Well, 1 of each color.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 of each color. So 5 mana, 1 of each color, and 2 colorless. Which, by the way, if you're not familiar with Golos's ability, you pay that 7 mana, and he says, exile the top 3 cards of your library. This turn, you may cast any of them. You may play any of them without paying their mana costs. So, pretty busted.
So Cascading Cataracts is an easy way for a quote-unquote colorless deck to create all 5 colors of mana.
I do like that.
Except Kaldheim has given us the World Tree, which I'm never going to be able to find because this is a wonky way of looking at things.
Just go, yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to scroll down to lands here on Mythic Spoilers. And
so
basics.
I will say I did have a comment on my Discord. A frequent viewer of the SnapCast podcast, Kawa, said, hey, maybe you should talk about the World Tree, whereas you were so wrong about that other land you brought up in the previous. Hey, remember that land I was so hyped about? What was it? I've forgotten the name because I'm mentally scarred from how wrong I was. But it was like, add 2 mana pool. I'm like, this is so sick. And it's like, spend this only to...
And
do
nobody
X, Y,
talked
Z.
about it.
I forgot about it. It was embarrassing for me. But he's like, maybe you should talk about the World Tree as a land that you bring up this week. And I'm so happy that you brought it up.
The World Tree is a non-legendary land. Enters the battlefield tapped. But it actually adds colored mana. It adds green. So, okay, it's an enter the battlefield tap that adds green. Who cares about that?
The coolest ability about this card is if you control 6 or more lands you control tap for any color.
You no longer worry about mana cost.
That's so cool.
So with Cascading Cataracts, yeah, cool, it's indestructible. Whatever. It costs 5 plus tap it to make Wooburg. With the World Tree, if you have 5 plus this, and even if you play this as your 6th land tapped, your other 5 tap for any color.
Right. I think there's a lot of value in this land. I mean,
oh my God.
Any mana fixing deck is gonna have this in it. I mean, obviously in Commander you need to be in all 5 colors, unfortunately. However, in all Golos decks, I think you're gonna see this land.
I mean, I'm glad that this doesn't make all your lands all land types.
Yes.
Holy crap, would that be scary. But the fact that this is at 6 lands, you now have rainbow lands.
The cool thing about this is that it says lands, as long as you control 6 or more lands you control have, quote, tap, add 1 mana of any color. It's cool because think of some staple cards in Commander right now, right? Ancient Tomb.
Yep.
Think of, what's the other one? Temple of the False God.
Yep.
That, have sort of conditions to them tapping efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This makes them tap far more efficiently and not cost you life in the case of Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, play a fetch land, don't crack it.
Right, play a fetch land, don't crack it if you don't need to. Oh, did you just look at the top of your library with top? You don't have to crack it away, you can still tap this land.
Yep.
Like, it's so cool, man. But it's just also the mana fixing associated with this card is so useful.
5-color shrine deck.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
funny.
God, that's good.
So part of the reason why I brought this up is Lucky Gaming did mention that the World Tree plus there's a new artifact that makes every creature in your deck share a type. Sort of like an arcane adaptation.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. We've seen that before in Arcane Adaptation, in Conspiracy, the card called Conspiracy. We've seen that before.
You can play this in a God tribal deck or with one of those cheaters because it does have a fourth line of text. We have the world tree enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add green mana. Third line is as long as you control 6 or more lands you control have tap 1 mana of any color. Or if you can pay Wooburg twice and tap this.
They expected this to be abused.
You sacrifice it and search your library for any number of God cards.
Oh my God.
Put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
That's so good.
The funny thing is, it is such a safe, rotten mechanic that even the meme of it is bad. Because if you go and get a god that gives all of your creatures haste, almost all of the gods that have been printed before have some sort of condition on them, like devotion, or the Amonkhet gods where, something has to have died or you had to have gained life. There's all of these things before they're turned on that you could bring in 20 gods and not do anything and then die.
Well, I mean, I like this card just for the fact that I hadn't even thought of the final, the ultimate ability on this card.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. It's that third line.
Like it's the third line of text, giving your mana, giving your lands the ability to tap for any color of mana. It's really good. But Christ, that's a really good point in the fact that now we have a land card that is a combo card. We haven't seen this since Dark Depths Thespian Stage.
Yeah,
I mean, this is very, very unique in the sense that it can be abused with cards such as Conspiracy. And he had mentioned an artifact card. Is there one in the current set?
There is one in this set that makes everything in your...
God, we're going to see this in Standard.
Maskwood Nexus. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't in the battlefield.
Oh my God.
This for 4 mana means on turn 7 or whenever you can, turn 12, if you can do that, you can play your holdback out.
Oh my God. That is
so now that we're here, I know that this is a card that you're going to laugh at me for, but I want to be famous for naming this. I'm calling this Snuggler's Copter.
Funeral Longboat? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, man.
Snuggler's Copter.
Okay, tell me why you call this Snuggler's Copter. Okay, first of all, tell us about this card. What is this?
Funeral Longboat.
It's a common card.
Is a common artifact vehicle with vigilance. It is a 3/3 for 2, crew 1.
I'm so happy, first of all, that they're bringing vehicles back.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So, Smuggler's Copter, banned, just quite not good enough for Modern, but banned in Pioneer, was banned in Standard. Was a 3/3 flyer for 2 that looted.
Too powerful.
Too powerful.
Too much. Let's dial it back a bit and turn this into a common.
Let's dial it back, turn it into a common. It doesn't fly, it doesn't loot, but we'll give it vigilance. So the other thing with Smuggler's Copter is that it was crew 1. So all of basically your 1-drops could crew it. So you could turn your 1/1 into a 3/3 and swing in the air. Okay, I know this doesn't have evasion. I'm not saying this is the return of Smuggler's Copter.
Okay.
But I think in Draft this is busted. I bet in
for sure.
Pauper this is going to be busted.
Oh my God, it's a Pauper card. Snuggler's Copter in
and
Pauper.
So I'm calling it Snuggler's Copter because it stays down. It doesn't fly over. It stays down with the crew. It stays down with the people. It snuggles right up with your other creatures and stays vigilant. Doesn't go anywhere.
Wow. Snuggler's Copter. You heard it here first. Pauper, upcoming Pauper staple right here.
Oh, dude.
It's a good way to give your Delver of Secrets in Pauper a nice little backup plan.
There you go.
On turn 2, right?
Yeah, it's a non-creature spell. Or is it instant and sorcery? I haven't played Delver
instant sorcery, yeah. Of course. It's a staple card, man. Delver of Secrets is looking for that instant sorcery. As soon as he finds it, you're dead. Well, you're on a clock, I should say.
Let's save some more of these spoils for next week. It's going to be 2 weeks before this stuff is legal. I think the 28th or so. So we've got at least 2 more weeks to talk about these cards, and there's tons of them. Like, one of the things that I will say about every friggin' card in this set is the text boxes are full. Hold on. I'm even going to put that back on the screen. Just scrolling here through Mythic Spoiler, and tell me when you see an empty text box.
Right? I mean, it's getting to the point where I think flavor text is going to be a thing of the past eventually. They're just not going to have enough room on the card. They just printed a common that looks a lot like Smuggler's Copter.
Yeah, so you were going to say it.
They just printed a common that looks a lot like Smuggler's Copter, and in many senses of that card.
They're just packing the text into these.
Yeah, it's magic in 2021, man. It's that power creep. We're getting there.
So I'm gonna make. We're at an hour now, and I don't want to go. I don't like to go too much over an hour because people got shit to do. But I'm gonna make a confession at the same time that it is a suggestion.
Okay.
I only bought a couple of Magic cards this week. And they were cards that I was thinking about playing in EDH. And they were cards that were like between $125 to almost $200. But I did not pay nearly those prices for them.
Oh man. What'd you get? You piqued my interest. I'll bite,
So what if
Brad.
I told you that I got a Grim Monolith that WotC printed for $25?
What? This ain't no fake card. This ain't no proxy. WotC printed it.
This is a subject of intense debate, but in 1999 and 2000, WotC printed World Championship decks with gold borders and a unique card back. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many casual EDH groups are concerned, it's a really nice proxy.
Yeah, it's a really nice proxy. And to go further,
it might be a nice investment.
I think so too. For years, we have seen these gold border cards, in case you weren't familiar with them, gold border championship cards, be practically devoid of value. I remember I picked up a collection once from somebody that had some gold border Arcbound Ravagers in it and some gold bordered Wastelands in it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. These aren't worth anything. But now those cards are actually worth something. You know what I mean? And it's not, I don't think it's just because of the collector's value of them and the fact that they haven't printed these gold bordered sets in a very long time. It's the fact, just like you said, is in Commander, in Tabletop Commander, the most popular format among Magic players right now, unsung hero with COVID and quarantine going on. These are popular because they're not a proxy that you have to draw up on a card. People are investing in them.
Right.
People are saying, all right, I'll take this $25 Grim Monolith that WotC printed over the $220 Grim Monolith that I would have to pay otherwise. So what do you think the odds are that they ever take the restriction off? And I'm going to get to why this might be a thing. But what do you think the odds of that are? That they say, you know what, gold border cards are legal in tournament play wherever those cards are legal at?
So here's an interesting, and this is definitely spitballing and tangent, but they are experimenting right now with potential God subscriptions on Moto, where you can pay $25 for 2 weeks to have access to the entire card pool of Magic the Gathering on Moto.
Get out of town.
They did this a couple of months ago with Eternal Weekend, where you could sign up for Eternal Weekend and you got one of these God accounts where you could build any deck you want. You're not constrained on the cards.
4 copies of any card you wanted.
And they're doing it again. They're making it like a temporary trial thing where you can pay.
You called this.
I did.
You called this. Like, this is the creativity side of this podcast that I absolutely love, and it's why I was just telling Brad I appreciate showing up every week and spitballing these ideas, because these things come out. You friggin' called this. You said the future of Magic Online might be just that. having these god accounts where you pay a subscription price for. It's the way to keep Magic Online going in spite of Magic Arena.
Yeah.
And give some value to it.
And so I listen to Magic Mike's today, and one of the things that their sort of eternal player on that cast, Aaron, was saying, yeah, you can say that Legacy and Vintage are dead, but if people have access to the cards, those events fire.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. So if those God accounts become a thing, and all of a sudden people are playing Legacy and Vintage on Moto, and they realize, hey, people actually do want to play these formats if and when they can, that could be enough to put pressure to say, well, we can't abolish the reserve list, but these are cards that we've already printed.
Yeah. Grim Monolith, printed in gold border. They've printed it. They can't print it again.
I brought this up on the computer screen. If you search for Grim Monolith on TCG Player, you'll see that there is Grim Monolith. Then there is the Grim Monolith 1999 Kaibude, the tournament deck.
Yep. Same thing with 2000 and John Finkel. Yep.
And I don't know how many of these World Tour decks that they printed. Now, it says right on here, big letters, not tournament legal.
Right.
I'm not looking to play this in a tournament. I'm looking to play this in my casual EDH deck.
Right.
$23.
So, and I find that to be absolutely nuts. The fact that this is not tournament legal. It's gold bordered. It's been known for a very long time. Gold, silver bordered cards are not tournament legal. Count them as proxies, basically, is what I used to think. They were basically nice high-level proxies.
Yeah.
It's worth
proxy is worth $23.
So here's my argument. It's entirely possible for these guys to say, you know what? These are allowed in tournaments.
Why? Tell them why.
And here's why. Because it is now, in case you guys weren't familiar with this, if you're playing in a competitive tournament now for Magic the Gathering, tabletop Magic, you have to have card sleeves or card protectors on your deck. It's required. You can't play without them because there's too much shit out there about marked cards and, oh man, your card has a little nick right here. You could tell what that is. Instead, they say card sleeves are required, so you can't ever see the back of the card. Well, the way that they made these not legal definitely back then was by giving these cards a different backing. They didn't have the traditional Magic the Gathering back to these cards. And obviously they were gold bordered too. But now that gold border isn't necessarily as much of a deterrent. We saw these, we saw Wizards of the Coast say, hey, guess what? You know when we're releasing this unhinged or the latest unset? Mm-hmm. You guys can use this in Commander for the next month or whatnot. It's legal in Commander.
They did. They tested the water with that. We're going to let these silver bordered cards be legal in Commander for a minute.
Because they knew everybody's using card sleeves. It's required in any format to use card sleeves if you're playing in a competitive tournament. So what is stopping them at this point when the backing of the card, which would usually indicate back in the day when they printed these things, this was a marked card, is no longer a thing? What is stopping them from saying all of these championship gold border cards that we printed back in the day
are now tournament legal?
Is it a stretch? It might be. Yeah. Is it possible? 100%. That is possible and absolutely doable because the same restrictions that they had with the backing of the card is no longer a thing.
And ultimately, for me to buy that card for $23 to play it in Commander is not nearly the most expensive card that I've bought to play in Commander. If I sit down at a table and somebody says, and I say, hey, I have a gold bordered card in my deck, and they say, I don't like proxies. That's not tournament legal. Okay, I'll take it out and put a basic land in or whatever. Right.
By the very least, it's a very, very nicely done proxy in Commander.
Yeah.
And by the very least.
I was on Facebook the other day and saw an ad for a proxy printing company, and they had a gorgeous Commander Sphere proxy that used the Death Star as the sphere, and I was like, "Oh man,
wow,
that's cool!" Like,
wow, that's cool.
I don't want a proxy card. Like, I don't want forgeries. I don't want to print forgeries of cards that I don't own and pass them off as real cards. That's not something that I ever want to do. But seeing this Commander Sphere as the Death Star is Commander Sphere, I was super excited about that because it's like an altar.
Right.
Like, I'm not telling you that this is a fancy card that it really isn't. You look at it and you go, oh, that's something you bought online. That's cool.
You can tell it's fake right away.
When I started scrolling around the rest of the site, they offered real Magic art on cards, and I was totally turned off.
Yeah.
Like that you could buy Chalice of the Void through them that had the Seb McKinnon promo Chalice of the Void art, and I was like, you guys are just fucking scammers, pardon my language.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen that on some of these Chinese fakes for a very long time. The quality of fake cards is increasing ridiculously, which always makes me scared as an owner of reserved list cards. Yeah. I'd be lying if I said that, you know, all of the investments I made on the reserve list doesn't scare me when I see the quality of these fakes going up. However, none have been even close. I mean, even remotely close at this point in all facets of what they need. So, I mean, it's great to have these.
You know what I would, if I was a scammer, I would be printing the Great Henge right now.
Oh yeah, and people are doing that. They're printing these the new cards. They're printing the new cards.
Do you know how much Great Henge is right now?
How much is it?
Take a guess.
I'm gonna guess. I would guess $30.
$30.
Is that really what it is?
No.
No.
No, I was confirming your guess.
All right, $30 is
my
guess.
So here's my snap sell, and I actually wanted to bring this up last week.
You're kidding me.
Regular.
Show them this. Show them this. The people that are watching. Show them this. There's no friggin' way.
Sorry. I didn't have the computer screen up.
$56. Yeah, snap this thing away.
Market price is $48.78. I've said it before on previous casts, but this is the number one mythic that I would expect to see in a challenger deck in 2021 while this card's still in standard.
Yep.
I understand it's a great card.
Snap sell these, dude. This is not a $60 card in any sense of the word. If you have Great Henge, sell it.
Like, it's $56 on page 1 of TCG.
Nobody's playing tabletop Magic right now. You got some number of months before people actually will be. And in that time, they could print these challenger decks that reprint this. This is a snap sell, man. Yeah. This is, if you got it at a lower price, congratulations. You made a nice profit. Sell this thing.
Yeah. It's so weird that they don't actually show you the full art version. Like, you have to search for it separately.
$80. See, I can agree with that being $80 eventually. Right now, it's a little too early.
And they're not going to put this in the challenger deck.
Right.
So if you really want this card, maybe it's a $25 card. Sell your regular copy for $50. Buy this for $80, and this is not going to go down.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might go down on a reprinting or whatnot.
You're
it might
still
go down eventually.
Own the best version.
You're going to own the best version
of
it,
the
exactly.
card. Like, the foil in the full art treatment is $126. Come on.
Card is not worth that much, man. Card is not worth that much. It's getting all the hype from standard right now. I can promise you, it's not really used in any other format.
My other advice right now is, there's a lot of hype on Angels because of all the Angels that are being shown in Kaldheim. If you have Resplendent Angels and some of the other Angels that have recently been printed into Standard that are popping up a little bit right now, get rid of them. Yeah. The prices are not going to hold.
They're not. I mean, the cards weren't good in Eternal formats before. They won't be now just because of this set. There's nothing, you got any Angels, buy the rumor, sell the hype is what they say in the stock market. Oh, the rumor of this set is coming out. The rumor is that Angel decks could be insane. They won't be. Sell the hype.
Yeah. How much better is it going to be than X, Y, or Z?
Right.
But again, with stocks that sell the hype, people start talking about it, and then there's this echo chamber of people talking about it, and this is going to be good, and this is going to be good. People start buying that shit up, And then the price goes up because people are buying it.
Right.
Sell them their cards. Sell them the cards they want.
Sell it to them. I can promise you at some point in time you will find it for cheaper.
We love you guys. We love spending every Thursday night with you for an hour or so. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you like to listen to audio podcasts, find us wherever you listen to your audio podcasts under the SnapCast podcast. Look for the purple clouds, baby. We're right there and waiting for you.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Let us know your favorite spoiler from Kaldheim down in the comments. And until next time, spread the podcast, not the plague.